Hello, I'm Vara,
And I'm Roxy.
and you are listening to VCR. Hey, Roxy, how are you?
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been a week.
Yeah, mine has
It's
been
been
a
a
week too.
week.
I can't. We've been texting each other with the craziness of our week and everything, and like we've kind of had some weird like drama pop up that's actually sunk up, in weird ways. We're not even in the
Yeah,
same location, and our drama's even syncing up here at this point. It's insane. It's been a hell of a week,
it has
but.
been.
Speaking of a hell of a week, we have a hell of a guest star today who I can only appropriately introduce through a cheesy NPR setup because me and this man have actually been on NPR together. So we will jump into that now. Hello, thank you for joining me on Nothing Considered with our very special guest star, a man who wrote a book. I found it to be just so shallow and pretentious that I said to myself, I have to have this man on because clearly he's just as shallow and pretentious. And in an age where we're all just putting out books, I would like to welcome Mr. Jimmy May, as you will, Jimmy May, to
It's great
not.
to be here, Richard.
Thank you. Wait till I finish my to nothing considered. Thank you.
I already ruined it because there's nothing considered. It's nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Mai, author of the book By Starlight, here on the VCR show, not nothing considered. NPR cannot sue me for that.
They might.
Well, theirs is all things considered, and I'm gonna question if all things are actually considered on that show.
Yeah, I don't think you can prove that.
No, he's like, have you really considered all things? I have considered nothing on this show. So, Jimmy, good to see you. How you doing?
Likewise, I'm doing good, man. Taking it all in, just, between work and, just family life and all that good stuff and the dog. It's yeah, it's nice. It's chill.
Mhm.
Things are, calming down a little bit before they're going to ramp up again in the summertime because it's just a busy season.
Understood, understood. So let me give you all a little background history with me and Jimmy. So me and Jimmy started off at university together at U of H downtown, and then we ended up doing theater together for a good minute, and that's what led us to actually get on NPR for a moment there with our favorite guy, Mr. St. John Flynn, as we
Yeah.
embarrassingly referred to him as St. John.
Hey man, it's
We
one of those
didn't
things.
know.
It's like,
Who
how are we
knew?
supposed to know?
Who knew that you pronounced the name Saint John as Sinjin? I was like,
Yeah,
that was
I
just
did.
like out of left field for us. So yeah, me and Jimmy used to spend a lot of time also hanging around some fun stomping grounds. We used to go hang out at Rice University and stuff like that. So that's just a little something that you know in a background history. But now. Mr. Mai here has gone off and written a book. So tell us about that epic adventure. I was
Well,
I was reading over a little bit of it. So first, start off with what made you decide to do it, and then we'll jump into a little bit of the background that I got. I'll read off the back cover.
sure.
Mhm.
Well, I've been a writer since a long time, even
Mhm.
before we met. And initially started off with plays, dabbled in poetry, and then I took a long break of writing anything serious. And in it was 2019, I just finished my first novel, and it was absolute garbage. It's still in the I got a fixed file, and it was the reason it was bad is because I didn't give any characters names. I was trying to be really artsy, and two people, one of them my editor, they were like, it just doesn't work, dude. Like you got to go back and change it up. They're like, we see that you were trying to do something. So yeah, I've actually gotten five books written, and this was trying to think, number four.
Mhm.
And the reason I decided to go with this one first was because, well, Richard, in
Yeah.
21, my sister passed away, and I wrote this book for her. It's
Mhm.
not about my sister. That's not, what this book is about at all. But it was a way of, processing my grief. And I had this story since 2019. Actually, it was, it originally was just about a boy wandering this world lost, right? And then eventually things got changed. I put it in the war scene with the Vietnam War. And then after my sister passed, I changed it from a boy to a girl. And it turned into what you have in front of you now. And it's about a, story about a girl who's escaping the Vietnam War,
Mm.
but at the same time, there's something evil hunting her. There's, that she's got to escape both evils. And I think it's a really good book. It's really fast paced, but it's really centered around just the human experience of being alone in a
Ooh.
terrible situation.
No, absolutely. I think that's something that we can all kind of relate to is like, when things go horribly wrong in our life or just wrong in general,
Mhm.
I think it's the horrible reality of, hey, you have to face these things alone, it's just one of those life lessons that, you are it. I guess that's the way to say.
Yep.
You
Yep,
can
you're
you
on
can have
time.
friends, you can have family, but in reality, it's just you who gets
Hmm.
you through it because that's the way it is. Notice my NPR play on it. So but let's jump into doing what I do and Roxy share screen with you. As always, that's how I intro everything here. Yeah, but we are going to pull up Mr. Mai's book here really quick. And this is it. Well, this isn't the front cover. I wanted to have the back cover up so I can read this to everyone. So the description and back, and by the way, love the photo, Jimmy.
Thank
Really
you.
great.
If I could just shout out really quick, my photographer, Gerardo Cardenas. He's on Instagram. This guy is an amazing photographer. He does, started off like every photographer does, doing weddings. But the man has capitulated his work into, just taking what's hidden in the, the human psyche and the human experience and bringing that out through a photograph. As an author session, we didn't really get that deep, but he's got a lot of photos, and if you have the opportunity to check him out on Instagram, he's got a lot of great stuff up. And his work with, in South American hospitals during the pandemic was just like this is like National Geographic level stuff that he does.
Oh,
And he
wow.
took the time to take photos of me. So yeah, he's a really, real great photographer. If you have a chance to check him out.
Awesome, awesome. So I just also want to compliment the front cover. I wanted to show
Thank you.
everyone the front because you know what it reminds me of, and I don't know if this is what you were going for or not, but like when we would have to go pick out a play to direct, and you go to like the bookstore and the little play booklets that it would come in with those little specific jackets, kind of like this. It very much reminded me of that. And I was like, that is kind of very cool, soft and subtle kind of play covers that they would have for play books. It was kind of awesome. So I saw that, I was like, that was the first thing that kind of came to mind, the drama and theater of it. So let's jump into the quick story on it, which you did kind of explain, but let's go into what the back cover says here. As the Vietnam War draws to a heartbreaking close, a young girl is left abandoned in the chaos of Saigon. With the Americans gone and the city on the brink of invasion, she has no choice but to flee. Armed with nothing but her wits and a handful of trinkets to remember her lost family, she sets out on a treacherous journey to the coast, alone. But war is not the only danger lurking in the shadows. Something far more sinister stalks the ruins of her homeland. Something ancient, something hungry. It preys on the innocent, and now it hunts her. So let's jump into this immediately, because when I read that, I was like, okay, the drama of war and the trauma that you get from it and the pain and the loss just of war alone, and that we can see that even in today's modern world with the common wars that we're having right now. what more is out there that could possibly be stalking her other than the horrors of just war?
Richard, that's life though, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's like when you're, getting pulled over and let's say you got, an ounce in the back, right? You're out there talking to the officer and then an 18-wheeler comes and slams into your vehicle and takes the
Mm.
cop with them.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, how much more worse can it get? And then the
Yeah.
dog comes out and starts chasing you, right?
Mm.
And I included that because, there is, for me, a lot worse things out there. And I think, for example, without giving away too much of the book, the
Mm.
human nature,
Mm.
for example, in a time of war, if you see the things that are happening, for example, in the Ukraine right now, and I'm not trying to get political, there are things that are happening to the citizens there that are completely outside of the warscape
Mhm.
and are horrible in of itself. So it's like you think to yourself, and go with for example, the food scarcity in Palestine right now, you got war on top of famine, right? And then there's just the human nature of folks who, do evil things to one another during peace times. And it's just like, yeah, how really worse can things get? And that's really kind of wanted to touch on in this book is just, when it gets bad, it can get worse.
Hmm.
So this isn't necessarily some type of fantasy or ancient evil type of thing that's hunting her, is it? Or is it
Well,
something like
without
a
giving away,
combination? Yeah.
yeah. So it really is an ancient kind of evil that is hunting her, and it's in addition to the war.
Mm.
And without giving away too much of the plot, it's something that arises out of that kind of that evil that I was talking about when it comes to humanity, and that it's manifested itself into something that's yeah, it is hunting her. And it's a metaphor or anything like that. It's there's something out there in addition
Okay.
to the war that's raging.
All right. So,
Interesting. I thought it was like just from what you read, I was like, oh, it's some kind of like ancient spirit that was awoken by the energy of the war, and now it's chasing her.
You can hold on to that idea, Roxy. You're not too far off.
so does this have a name? Whatever it's
No, I
hunting
can tell
down.
you that in the book we just refer to it as the evil.
Okay, all right. So no
Okay.
specific name, it's just referred to as the evil. Okay, very cool. Before we go any further, I do want people to know that you can purchase Mr. Mai's book on Amazon. It is available on Amazon.
And it is
And
available on Google Play Books, and I'm working on Apple Books right now.
oh, excellent, excellent. So now you'll have some other platforms, Apple and Google Play.
Will it be on Spotify?
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm going to actually be recording it here soon.
Hmm.
And I tried messing around with the AI, reading it for you, and it just sounded too Stephen Hawking's.
Yeah, yeah. AI is not the best for reading these kind of things.
Yeah.
It really isn't, and it is too very robotic to kind of go on, and
So
it
I'll be
kind of
recording
ruins it,
it.
I think.
Yeah, and I'll be definitely putting it up on Spotify and
Mhm.
Audible and all of those platforms. 'Cause
Okay.
I know people, it's definitely one of those, mediums that if that's how you listen to your stuff, your content, that's what you want.
Awesome. So, for this book particular, because I know you've been writing for a while, how long
Mhm.
did it take you to write this particular one?
Ooh, I started in June of 21 and finished in February of 22.
Hmm.
So I want to say June, July, August, September, October, November,
Yeah.
February. 8 months, 9 months,
But
sorry.
took you my months to write it. So, what made you kind of decide now is the time to publish
It really is involved in a couple, mainly, can I be just completely honest? It's the
completely?
one that meant the most to me at the moment.
Hmm.
You
Okay.
know, I wrote it for my sister. It was the most emotional, impactful for me something that I had written like that in a long
Mhm.
time. And I feel that strongly that it's a good book, that you'll enjoy it, that you'll,
Mhm.
that it will scare you a little bit.
Mhm.
And that you'll feel, horror for this girl. And that when you do finally read it, you'll be, satisfied at the end that this was a good read, that it wasn't something that was cheap or
Mhm.
just rushed, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, and then also with just everything that's going on in the world.
Mhm.
There's so much of it, and it's one of those things that I didn't write it to bring awareness to say that I did, I'd be lying. But also for people to get, to know that on top of, the horrors of the war that a lot of people in this world are facing right now, there's still the element of just, the dark side of humanity as
Mhm.
well as we're seeing all over the place right now
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Definitely. So what, I'm just curious here. What is the name of your main heroine here? Your character.
Her name is Nat.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's takes place a Vietnamese girl, it's a Vietnamese family. So her
Hmm.
name is Nat. There is another character in there. His name is Do. You'll read it and think Do, but it's Do. And so yeah, there's a lot of because I am half Vietnamese, and there's a lot of little Vietnamese things in there. So for example, when someone refers to the girl, they'll call her M, and that's really kind of an affectionate name for a little girl who's at that age, right? Means like little niece. And so, but not literally, of course, but it's just kind of an affectionate thing, like you would say sweetheart or mija, and
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, you'll see some of that as well in there. But yeah, it's Nat, Nhat.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what well other than so you're sharing that you're part Vietnamese, what was part because you could choose literally any war, you World War One, World War Two, any of the wars. What made you go with the Vietnam War?
It's strictly just, personal arrogance, man. It's one of those things. Half Vietnamese. My dad was a Vietnam vet who fought, for the South Vietnamese. He was a refugee afterwards, and I really wanted to just, you know, kind of just take my experience with that, as being, a Vietnamese person who's, seen the different aspect of that, who's seen the consequences of it,
Hmm.
as well. Somebody was asking me about this book, and they were like, well, um, talking about like the after effects of war, and I was like, I wanted to tell them, like, you understand that it's not like just the end of a book,
Hmm.
right? It's just like there's still a lot to go through
Hmm.
after that, what happens at the end of the book. And it's one of those things that I just wanted to share that part of my culture, share that part of that personal history. And it's also because it's just one of the, I think it's like the World War II of this
Hmm.
generation. There's not a lot of World War II vets anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All of the old timers are Vietnam War vets, and it has the most mystique around it.
Right, right. Because the Vietnam War was, well, I mean, all wars are a big deal, but Vietnam, I think, was so tragic in itself because it lasted so long too. It lasted
Mhm.
like 13 years, and then finally, it never really officially closed. It did kind of, it's a ceasefire, is what it is. We have a massive ceasefire that's still in place. But here's the other question. So I noticed you chose the fall of Saigon, which is appropriate because that's how Vietnam really ends, is with the fall of Saigon. And is is your character from Saigon, or is it like have you set it in a different village in Vietnam?
No, it's from Saigon.
She's in Saigon, okay.
Definitely one of those parents, families who who didn't listen to get out. They were waiting,
Yeah.
for the Americans to save them, and now they're stuck.
Okay. Well, and see, that's pretty traumatic as in itself because I remember teaching about when I was a teacher and teaching about U.S. and world history. The fall of Saigon was huge, and then making them watch the video clips where they the Americans were over there throwing off helicopters from the ships and other supplies so they can fit more people on board, and then they had to leave. And then you had all those people who were stuck trying to get on there. And the sad thing is, that's where, the news footage kind of ends. But the truth is, what starts up after that is the fact that the Viet Cong are about to show up, and all
Hmm.
those who were trying to flee are about to be in a
Oh yeah.
lot of trouble, either murdered or, tortured or, punished for trying to flee with the Americans, or being supporters of the previous, regime type of thing. So you pick a really interesting, very complex time period that's actually just rich with a lot
Yeah.
of going ons, and I can see how that can be a very, very appealing background for your character because there's a lot going on there, just tons going on.
Yeah, it's just like you mentioned, it's like it's tense, right? It's rife with, conflict. It's a counter, it's a powder keg about to explode. And that's really the reason I picked it because I thought to myself, there's no better time than to have like a demon chasing you through the streets.
Yeah,
Because everything's already
exactly.
as bad as it is.
Does she get to find some kind of refuge in the end, or do you dark it out for us?
The only thing I'll say is that I don't think you'll be in a pit of despair because,
Okay. Are you
yeah,
planning on doing a sequel or a follow-up to this story, or does it end here?
it
That was
ends
my
here.
next question.
It
Yeah, I'm
ends
sorry,
here.
Roxy, what did you say?
Oh, I said that was going to be my question too.
Okay, yeah, it ends. It ends there. Yeah. It's just how do I put it? There's just so many things that could happen afterwards, and it's just I'll leave that to your imagination.
I love that when they leave it to the reader's imagination to kind of fill in the what happens to the life after that type of thing.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
I don't, I get mad.
ex-
I need to go.
I think so. One of the big things is like, I'm glad you kind of said that it ends there because like what we are discussing beforehand, we are talking about Moana and how they have the sequel out, and it's like, A, the sequels are never as good as the original storyline, and then you should have just left it alone. Like, I think people
Well,
don't really know when to stop a good story and they try to milk it and they end up ruining a little bit of the story. So I'm glad you were able to say, "Hey, look, this is where it needs to end. It doesn't need to go any further,"
Mhm.
because you don't want to ruin it in any way, type of thing like that. What other books do you have maybe coming out in store for the rest of readers, if
Well, I
anything?
can tell you, yeah, because so I've got the 5 books written, and this was number 4. So the first book that I've written, ever wrote that I told you guys it was just pure, it was utter garbage. That's currently undergoing rewrites.
Excellent.
And so because I do feel strongly about that story, I just feel that, yeah, I could fix it up. The second book that I ever wrote is about Mexican witchcraft and
Mm,
brujeria. Yeah. And I'll give you a sum up because that one's going to be coming out later this year. It's basically this, young man. He has a vision,
mhm.
and the Santa Muerte. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
mhm.
I know it.
Comes and makes a request,
Mm.
and like any other man, he doesn't listen. He ignores it, and it has,
Well,
yeah, it has devilish
I
consequences.
imagine things get a little crazy.
Yes. Are you guys just, and this is a question for y'all, do y'all believe in witchcraft or that sort of stuff? Or the supernatural
I do,
magic?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's all me.
Roxy does, as you
All
know,
me.
my
I, I
background.
I don't know if you peeped my mug. Like,
All right, witch's brew. I love
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I recognize that mug.
Well, I'll tell you, and I think Roxy, you'll love this book. I, did a lot of research. I know a lot of people who, believe in, witchcraft and brujeria, and
Mhm.
it does a lot. This book deals a lot with the tarot
Ooh.
cards as well. And yeah, I did a lot of research. I feel it's really authentic. And actually, and it was one of those, particular book was fun because I was in Mexico City at the time on vacation.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I was at the Palacio de Bellas Artes watching the Folklorico,
Well,
the
you were right
dance.
there in the roots.
Yeah. And the lights just got dim, it got purple and red. The devil came out, started dancing, and these big statues with these big heads came out. And it was just, I wasn't high, but, if I was, it would have been a trip.
Mm.
And so literally ran out of there into my Airbnb and wrote out the entire outline for this book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
Mm.
And so that,
inspired. Wow.
yes. And so Mexican culture has a big, big, big part to play in this book. And that one's coming out in hopefully September.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Have
Yeah.
you titled that book yet?
I did title it, but I changed. Decided that
Subject
that
to
no longer
change.
works. So I'm in the process of retitling it
Hmm.
because, yeah. So it's just, it's not. The title is good, but it doesn't fit the book.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so yeah, so that one will be coming out. And also I'll be writing, releasing Spanish versions of every book that I write
Oh,
Hmm.
months afterwards. So in July or June, sorry, you'll be able to see By Starlight in Spanish as well.
Very cool. Well, look at you,
Yeah.
just a man of all
Nice.
talents. And speaking of talents, let's go backwards a little bit to our days of being college boys here. So let's talk a little bit about your background and your educational background. That way our audience kind of gets a better feel for you. So run us through your educational background real quick. Like where did you start off and where have you come?
So really started getting into reading. I was, reading what I forget someone called a long time ago airport literature, those like New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah.
Read that in high school and in middle school, and then, graduated from Goosebumps, of course. Got to the university where I met you back in '07. It was a long time ago, Richard.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
And then I studied literature there, but really my focus was American Lit.
Hmm.
A lot of that, the Southern Gothic literature,
Hmm.
the antebellum stuff, the really the kind of macabre material too that early American literature, just kind of like folk tales, like the Legend of
Yeah.
Sleepy Hollow
Mm.
and what happened to the people of Roanoke and all that stuff really inspired me. And then I got into theater, and then that was you're talking about just a deep, ridiculous hole. Because I got into absurdism, and then Brecht and Anton and Artaud, and so that's really the stuff that kind of inspired me. So when yeah, and then moving out of that, I got into magical realism. So what you get from me is kind of like a mix of magical realism, absurdism, and with a little just drop of horror there because that's what I read a lot as a kid.
Hmm. Very
Sounds
cool.
like
A lot
that's
of
right up my
interesting.
alley.
Exactly. It
Give
was
me a lot of your
all
books, Roxy.
speaking to
Because I
her.
got another witchcraft book that has to deal directly with like the devil.
Hmm.
Ooh.
And then the other book that I've written, that's probably like the funnest one is about I'll tell you just the short end of it, the elevator pitch I give people. It's about a couple who breaks up, and the young man, he can't really voice his feelings. He can't communicate, so he decides that he wants to share his journal with his ex-fiance because they broke up over an incident, and to show how he feels. But a possum steals his journal, and that's the only way he can get his fiance back. So with the help of a frog, he's going to go get it back.
Very cool. Very cool. I think that's very awesome. Very
Thank
interesting
you. I
there.
like it.
Yeah. So
Ah.
yeah, you look forward to that Brujeria book coming out this
Mhm.
year. Next year will be that book I just told you about, the possum stealing the journal, and along with that other book about the devil. And then hopefully that other manuscript that was really bad will be really good.
You'll
Really
you'll
good.
do so you'll
Yeah.
do a little refresher and then go right
Right?
back at
Yes.
it.
A little
Yeah.
tweaking.
Yeah, so if anyone can do a refresher, it's Mr. Mai here. So to kind of
Thank you.
like he's being modest, but let me go ahead and give you a little bit of his background. So he has a bachelor's in English,
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
From U of H downtown. Went on to Sam Houston State where he received his master's of library science, right? So go
Correct.
Bearcats, you know. So that's Mr. Mai's educational background there, you know. Both very good state institutes, you know, state, not private like some others.
Not to be pretentious, Richard.
But good job for state. Okay.
Thank you. It was all I could afford at the time.
But like just for funsies, let's kind of go back and because I always thought it was a funny story how we met. Because someone had told you that you needed to kind of find me or
Yeah.
and so you want to share that story because you're so much better at it than I am.
Dude, I can't even remember. It was one of these things. We're all in the green room, the theater room, and we're
Mhm.
just all, telling these ridiculous jokes. And I made this raunchy, just off the wall, just kind of like gross, it'll get you canceled now, joke.
Yeah,
And
a lot of jokes from back then will get you canceled today.
yeah. And then Richard, someone says like, "Oh man, you'll love Richard and all that stuff." And I was like, who is this guy? And they described you as the person who went, he was one of the techs at UHD that went in there. And I was like, "Oh man, he's always going in there into our classroom to help our professor with the DVD player." If you remember
You
Professor
couldn't do
Lund.
it. The time you
And
told her to rewind it, though, was
yeah,
classy.
oh man, that was no,
Did
that
you
was
try?
that's
Did you
on
try
that part.
rewinding the DVD? And I'm there like, what the fuck is
Oh my
happening?
gosh.
And she rewound it.
Yeah, she
I
tried to
felt so
rewind
bad.
it. Oh my God. So go on.
Yeah, and so one day, and we're just talking about
Mhm.
I forget what it is we were talking about. And then but yeah, we were just laughing, and I made this typical joke again, and then Richard comes in, and then like half of the women in there just like freeze, and the guys are just looking at the door, and Richard comes in, and they were like, "Oh, it's just Richard," and they were like, "This is Richard," you know. And so yeah, that's how we met. I forgot what the joke was, Richard. It was really bad too. I forgot.
Uh, it's okay. We'll catch
Such
it
a
next
Christian.
time you're on the show. Oh man, but that is truly amazing. Very happy for you in the book, and I'm
Thanks.
really, wishing you much success on this and then the other series of books that you'll be bringing out. So we have a few minutes left. So please tell our audience, like, if they could pick up this particular book, where can they pick it up for now and soon to be?
Amazon and Google Play Books. You can get it on Kindle, and I formatted it specifically for Kindle, so it's flawless in that department. The paperback is also available, and you can also get it on Google Play Books, and hopefully within the week, Apple Books as well. Just still waiting on them to approve the formatting and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, those will be the primary places. I got Amazon primarily because it's Amazon.
Right, of course,
Right.
Yeah.
no matter how you
Yeah.
feel about it,
So
Amazon's Amazon.
Yeah.
yeah, pick it up on Amazon and Kindle or paperback. You'll love it. It's the book right now I currently feel just the strongest about.
Excellent, excellent. So you can pick up Mr. Mai's book By Starlight on Amazon or any of the other platforms that he mentioned. And if you maybe want to share your review of his book with us, you can do so here at the VCR Show at the VCR Show at gmail.com and all of our social medias at the VCR Show and our defunct website that I never update, the VCRshow.com and our YouTube channel, the VCR Show. And let's say you want to do coffee and literature with Roxy and express the amusing stylings of Kierkegaard and all that.
Yes, please.
You can do that to her social medias, which are
On Facebook at Roxy Perez Curvy Model, on Instagram at PopRocks428, and on TikTok at the PopRocks. And PopRocks is spelled POPROXX.
and if you want to share your reviews or thoughts or share thoughts directly with Mr. Mai and say, hey, oh my God, I did find it to be so shallow and pretentious. Uh, you can do so at his social medias if he has any to share, which would be
Yep. My TikTok at Jimmy Mai Morillon. That's my maternal last name. On the Mexican side, it's Morillon. And you can visit me at jimmygmai.com as well.
excellent. And you can hit them up. And until next time, I am Vara,
And I'm Roxy.
and you've been listening to VCR.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You have been listening to VCR, creative content by Richard Christopher Vara and Roxy Perez. Logo by Richard Christopher Vara with assistance from Annie Ramirez. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us at thevcrshow@gmail.com or our social medias at Instagram and Twitter at the VCR Show. And you can also check out our content at thevcrshow.com. The show's song is Addict by Nefex, instrumental, and you can find them on YouTube Music Library.